Hey there, Ron Sullivan, your online hitting consultant. We got two really big things that I want to share with you today. One of them is I want to give you a drill for your player that has drag tendencies. The long loopy swings, the elbow coming underneath behind them, right? Some kids have a form of arm bar that probably needs to be straightened out just a little bit, right? All these patterns that we see with kids, I've got a drill I think that's going to be helpful. Now, first and foremost, what you really need to understand, right, is why does your player do what they're doing in the first place? It's not enough to just say, I need a drill to make my kids' elbows look different. If you don't understand the root problem of why their elbows are doing what they're doing, you're going to have the problem's going to continue to pop up. No matter how good slow motion video on a tee looks, right? You've got to continue to work in the right direction. And so we're going to describe here in the very beginning of this video why kids do what they do. And I promise you, you haven't heard this anywhere here before. This is something completely different than you've heard on this channel, right? And I don't typically share this on the channel. I typically, when people reach out to me about some of my top hand arm therapies and things like that, but I thought today is the best day to just share this information publicly. And this is what I've learned about kids that may be helpful for you. All right, so here are the patterns of movement for kids over here on the left. Right? When they start learning the game, right, the hands drop, the barrel drops, the front arm starts to straighten out, the elbow on the top hand arm comes underneath, right, and they work, well, just like this. The top hand arm becomes a guiding mechanism instead of a driving mechanism, right, and, well, it's just rough. You've all seen it. You're here because of that, right? So why do kids do it? And the answer to this question, this simple question, why do kids do it, will change a lot of stuff for you. It did for me. I'm just sharing my experience. Why do they do it in the first place? So the typical answer, if we just pretend like we don't know anything, you take off your instructor hat, your dad cap, and all those things, and you say, all right, why is my kid doing it? Right? Typically people will say things, they'll give you mechanical explanations. Well, kids try to use their hands and arms too much. They don't understand connection and all these things. They'll give you the reasons why your kids mechanically are not doing what they're supposed to do. And that's helpful, right? I mean, I have mechanical explanations as well, but we're going deeper than that today. Why are they doing it in the first place? And so the next level, or another good answer is, well, kids are young, right? They're smaller in stature, and they're not very strong. And as they become more coordinated with their muscles and so forth and bigger, these things will take care of themselves. No doubt, kids will become more efficient. But the pattern of movement and why they're doing this in the first place, if it's not addressed, you will see a player at some point, no matter how different their swing looks in slow motion on video, they will stop. They won't be able to hit themselves out of a paper bag if it's not addressed. All right, and we can't say it's a size and strength issue, and you'll have to take my word for this. If a 25-year-old man that does CrossFit 5 times a week comes into my facility and he says, hey, I've never played baseball before, I'd like to learn how to hit. That this pattern of movement, you can hang your hat on it. This is exactly what it would look like. Right? So it's not a size strength issue. It's a beginner pattern that we're talking about today. It's not an armbar problem. It's not an elbow drag problem. It's not a hands dropping problem. It's a beginner pattern that has to be addressed right now. Right? So as we go further into why they do it in the first place, I want to share with you how I recreate these moving parts. Now, I didn't say, and I don't want you to just trust this. I'm going to show you how you can do this yourself if you really want to understand what your kid is feeling. I said at the beginning of this, I want to be able to demonstrate what kids think hitting is and what they feel when they hit. All of the moving parts that kids do will come up as a result of that. That's the perfect experiment that I wanted to create here. Not just trying to pull wool over your eyes and go, you know, kids do their elbow like this and their arm like this. All right, so here, big ball on a tee, just to exaggerate this. All right, now it's a weighted ball, so all I have is a bat weight. I couldn't put it on a tee. And so I said at the beginning of the swing, all right, I'm going to take the good part of the bat and I'm going to move it immediately, right now, around to the first base side of the back of this ball. The patterns of movement that you see here, in my experience, is exactly what I see from dads all over the country when they're sending video to me and when I see players come in for evaluations that are learning the game. Same pattern over and over and over and over again. And kids think that hitting, when they start playing this game, is I've got this big long stick, right? And I'm going to go around space. And at some point in going around space, I'm going to run into my target. Well, you know, that's not a terrible description generically of how the baseball or softball swing looks, right? And this is why they do it, because they see other people doing what they think they're seeing, right? And the problem with this is, in terms of approach, it's the opposite of what we want to do as a hitter. I can't think around space, especially in an environment where a ball is sitting still here, right? I've got to learn to work through space. So how you alleviate this is you take care of the root problem. The root problem is wrong. The program, everything the body is doing, and this is what you got to get for those. Some of you dads are really frustrated. Man, I can't get that elbow to do something, right? This is what you have to get, is that this pattern of movement is biomechanically perfect for going around space. Right? And so when you tell them that their elbow can't do certain things and their front arm can't do certain things, but you haven't addressed the approach problem, right? Their brain is automatically going to go back to this because it's around space. No matter how many times you tell them you don't like their arm bar, you don't like their elbow dragging, hands dropping, you haven't fixed the problem. The root problem, all of these things that we tend to focus on, and I'm with you, right? These are symptoms of the root problem. Right? These are the biomechanics for going around space. So we look at Carlos Correa's swing, for instance, and we say that's perfect biomechanically. Well, what Carlos Correa thinks about hitting and what kids think about hitting are completely different. So we have to take these kids that have elbow drag, arm bar, hands casting, all those kind of things, hands dropping, and reframe everything they think hitting is, because it is the opposite in terms of approach. Right? And so we take the same scenario, and you probably already are catching on to this, right? And we say, all right, we're not trying to change mechanics here. We're just trying to say, all right, now I'm going to take the good part of the bat and put it on the third base side of the back of this ball. Now, this T position is really close to me, right? So that kind of exaggerates some of these movements. The premature extension, you'll see my arms and hands of trying to exaggerate to get to the third base side of the back of the ball. But what I'm using this for is a demonstration of the patterns of movement that will typically go, this isn't right. Well, this is perfect for what this player thinks hitting is. So the way to address this is not mechanically. You don't come in and start going, this player's elbow needs to do this, and we got to bend this and keep it lifted up. You don't want to do that. You're barking up the wrong tree there, right? And so we'll go over to this drill. All right, Hunter Dozier, 30 clubs for 30 days. You can search for this online. He's talking about his cage routine. And basically what he's doing is he's taking a T position that's up and in, right? And many of you know that have played the game, an up and in T position is not the easiest T position. It's belly button high, right? And now you take this one step further, and Hunter Dozier says, all right, I'm trying to hit low line drives to right center field. What he's talking about there is barrel awareness, right? This is how I can create barrel awareness. I'm literally trying to reproduce a ball flight that goes low line drive to right center field. There's only one way to do that, and it better be that from this position, the good part of the bat has to be on the right part of the ball. Now, when we talk about the mechanics of this, right, you can talk to your player about the elbows. You can say, well, your hands need to pull in more. You can do all that stuff. If you make your player barrel aware and say, I need that part of the bat to get on the right part of the ball, and you use a half bat exercise like this, right? I got half a bat in my hand, basically. I'm choked way up. Top hand's not even on the grip, right? And I love this for kids, right? Because it gives them a little more barrel control initially, right? And that T position is really tight, and it's inside, and it's up. I need a little bit of barrel control. Your player that has the patterns that they have now, they're not going to be able to hit this very good from the normal position on the bat. And so we just want to get them closer to the barrel and say, hey, that good part of the bat needs to get on the right part of the ball. The patterns of movement that we see that we oftentimes will address the shapes mechanically that we're fixing, right? These are just natural patterns of movement for a player that has the right approach, right? So good approach builds good mechanics. It's not the other way around. These days what I see on YouTube is that if you create a mechanical robot, then I guess later on, and I'm assuming this is what they're saying, that later on you can work on approach. Well, that's not true, right? You have to initially have the right approach fundamentally, right? And then you can build skill development around that. But people are doing it backwards. They're trying to do the skill development, right? Here, your body rotates. Here, put this device on your bat. How far are you swinging up? Oh, okay, well, the attack angle needs to be more like this. Well, the kid doesn't even know what it means to be inside of the ball. Now, as far as getting inside of the ball, and this is why I love this drill, right, is that you don't have to talk to a player about, are you pulling your hands in enough? Your elbow is supposed to be doing a certain thing or anything like that. In order to get the good part of the bat on the right part of the ball, this is the flow. That's just the way it works. If you want to get the good part of the bat on the ball, right, your body will have to react that way. You don't have to think about doing it. And if your player's not, they're probably not hitting the right part of the ball. So you still have room, right? That's the error, right? Well, you just rolled over that. That's on the first base side of the ball, and it's over there on the pull side on the ground. We're trying to hit a low line drive to right center field. The player starts getting comfortable with this. Then you start inching them down the bat a little bit. You can take them a few inches further down or choke down. And then as they work their way all the way to the knob of the bat, right, you can start, and they start becoming consistent with that. When you see ball flight going exactly where you want it to, I would think with kids, telling them a head-high line drive at the second baseman instead of thinking outfield, because kids will do some interesting things to try to make the ball go as far as it can. I would just put the target in a little bit closer and say head-high line drive at the second baseman's defensive position. And then have them gradually choking down. And when you see this pattern of movement becomes a little bit more fluid, and most importantly, not just the pattern of movement, but the consistency in results, right? Where you see the ball flight going right at the second baseman's head, start moving the tee away from them, 3 inches further out now. Right? They start wearing that out 3 inches further out than that. Boom, boom, boom. And then you can come back, go all the way back inside, right? And just create more and more barrel awareness. And you're going to see that the patterns of movement are going to change, because what you're teaching your player is how to work through space, right? Extension is a product of not doing extension drills. I'm sorry, I just have to say that. It's not, you can teach a player their arms are supposed to be a certain way after they hit, but what you really want a player to experience is natural extension that follows the flow of saying, I'm going through space and not going around space, right? So this is, in my opinion, where I would start. If you want to use the big ball, use something bouncy that they can pound through, right? Don't use something that when they get to the ball, it blows their arms and hands up. Something they can pound through. And I would try to get them to think about putting the good part of the bat as hard as they can through the third base side of the back of the ball, and not allowing them to kind of steer to get to the inside of the ball. Really encourage, hey, I want you to hit this hard, but I want the good part of the bat going right through the third base side of the back of the ball. And you're going to gradually see, as their approach gets better, right, the moving parts will become much more efficient, right? And this is the best I have for you as far as, a quick drill and understanding why your player is doing it, and then creating a measure to kind of work in the opposite direction. Ron Sullivan, your online hitting consultant. Thanks.